Hey everybody, it's me, TJ, and Kelly is over here.
Hey.
We are talking, kind of follow up on what we were talking about in the first podcast, which is how you fail. We're going to be talking about how habits form. So we all have habits, whether it's good or bad. We're going to kind of talk about how they form, and either how to get out of those bad ones, or how to form new ones. So what is a habit? It's a good thing to kind of understand what a habit is. So, Webster's Dictionary, Wikipedia, habit is a routine of behavior that is repeated regularly, and it tends to occur subconsciously. So, I pick my nose when I'm driving. That is probably a habit, or something along those lines. Combing your hair a certain way, stuff like that. It's just usually it's a subconscious thing we do, and we're going to kind of talk about how they form, what bad habits you have, how to kind of rewire your brain to form new habits. So let's start with some bad habits you have. Kelly, what are some bad habits you got?
The first thing that comes to my mind is a coffee habit. And I know that coffee is not necessarily bad for you. And actually, coffee is the number one source of antioxidants for Americans because
wow.
they eat so few fruits and vegetables. But, a little tidbit there for
Burgers
you.
and fries.
Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I happen to know. So there's generally two kinds of people. There are slow caffeine metabolizers and people who metabolize caffeine quickly. So quick metabolizers can drink a lot of coffee and not have huge effect from it. Their body rids it very quickly.
So what's the downside to that?
Well, there is no downside to that one. You can drink coffee before you go to bed and you can go to sleep. I happen to be a slow caffeine metabolizer. So if I have too much coffee, I get jittery and shaky. Mm-hmm. It can cause anxiety, and I can't drink coffee past noon, or I can't sleep.
Yeah,
it really affects me, yet I find it so difficult to not drink too much. I don't know. It's like I feel like I used to be able to keep it to just 1 or 2 cups, and then all of a sudden I'm up to 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or something like that, and it really affects me. So I would say for me, like currently, that's one of my bad habits, like that's related to diet, I guess.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. So I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine.
Oh.
I learned that today. It's awesome because I can probably drink Monster Energy drinks, terrible. I love them. My wife thinks they're disgusting. That's fine. I can drink one at 9 o'clock and go to bed at 9:30.
Oh my gosh!
It doesn't do anything.
Really?
No. Yeah. If you look at my car right now, you're not allowed. If you're my wife to look at my car, I have like probably 4 or 5 just like empty cans.
If you drink one in the morning after you wake up, does it help you wake you up at all?
No.
No?
No.
Oh man, see.
Doesn't do anything.
When I drink a cup of coffee after getting out of bed in the morning, I mean, it literally hits my system almost as soon as I take that first sip, and like I am just buzzing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I've only had one thing that actually did that for me. It was like a pre-workout. It was called Jay Cutler series, and I was like profusely sweating. It was disgusting. So I started with a hoodie on because I'm like, all right, a hoodie, whatever. That's how guys work out in hoodies, I guess. So, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I literally just walked on the treadmill 5 minutes, took it off, go over to the rack, pouring sweat, sweaty all everywhere. I've had people that said it lasted from when they took it in the morning till like 6 o'clock at night, and they were sweating so much it was in their socks.
Ew. You're lucky you're not dead.
Yeah.
God.
It was crazy. But going back to the bad habits like caffeine, I drink it all the time with those energy drinks and stuff. It doesn't do anything bad that I know of. Right. It probably does because there's so many chemicals and that stuff.
Yeah, it's probably the chemicals more than like I said, if you're a fast caffeine metabolizer, it's probably not, the caffeine isn't the big deal for you. It's going to be all the other stuff you're getting along with it.
Yeah,
that's going to be a bigger deal.
Some of the words I can't pronounce. So
right.
it's like
right
water, this big word.
Did you get your Blue Lake number 5 today?
Yeah. What is, yeah,
Food
right.
coloring.
What is that? I don't know. Oh my gosh.
I think, and so like just sort of piggybacking off of that, my next bad habit also having to do with food. I do have a non-food one. I just like to talk about food, probably because I'm hungry right now because you're here in my house.
And that brought you Peeps.
You did bring me Peeps, which I appreciate. But I need to eat my steak right now. No, I'm just kidding. So I reward myself with food. And I think a lot of people do that, but it's like I've had a hard week. Well, pizza and beer on Friday night. I know a lot of people struggle with overeating on weekends.
Yeah.
And I am no different than anybody else. And I think I have somehow equated like that release of tension that happens on Friday night and Saturday with overeating and drinking too. Like, on a Friday night, I would normally either drink nothing or maybe have a beer or a glass of wine. But then come Friday night, I'm like, drink 3 or 4.
Right.
I'm like, and that's like a binge drinking session for a woman. So, if I had a tough workout, I sort of like my mind says, well, surely I deserve an extra helping of mashed potatoes at dinner for, recovery purposes, of course. Excited or happy about the vacation we just booked, or, if I'm excited about something like this podcast, let's go out to dinner to celebrate. I do think it's normal human behavior and nature to celebrate with food because we're all brought up that way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I definitely notice that there's an uptick in my sugar and alcohol consumption specifically when I'm emotional or when I like feel that I need a break or like to celebrate anything. I don't know. It's a habit. It's a habit that forms, and then that one's a really hard one to break.
Yeah. With the food thing, I know, if you have a rough day at work, there is so many fast food restaurants on the way
Oh my gosh.
to the gym.
Yeah.
And I know I used to be like, I really want a Blizzard from Dairy Queen, so I'm going to get a Blizzard and fries. And I'm going to go on this turnpike here or whatever it's called and skip the gym and go home. I don't see. You didn't have to see it.
You went 50 miles out of your way to get on the turnpike so that you could avoid the gym.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You were telling me one time about this game that you used to play with the stoplights.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's if you want to get out of the gym. I don't know what to call it, so we will call it. What's that kid game you used to play with, like red light, green light?
It was red light, green light.
Yeah, so that's what we'll call it because that's basically what it is. So I would take the route with the most traffic lights, and if it had a red light, I would I would make it would change from week to week. I'd either stop. I got to go to the gym. I got to turn left. Oh, it's green. Green means go home, and you don't have to go today. So
gosh.
That is the game. And I've actually heard a lot of people say that they've used that excuse because, like, the gods of the traffic light are telling me that I do not need to go to the gym because it is green.
So okay. That just blows my mind because honestly, when we went to school, I figured you were like so into the working out and like you just were not a person who would have a problem with like the motivation to work out. So like, do you still play this game or like what makes you motivated to work out now?
So motivated to work out now, kind of, if you listen to the last podcast, we kind of cover it a little bit.
Right.
Now it's more of just, I got to put the work in.
Right.
I feel so much better now than I did. You have aches and stuff, and that's just from exercise and whatnot, and that kind of goes away or, gets worse depending on what you're doing. But it's just the feeling I get after, I feel so much better than just skipping it.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not feel like crap because I did skip it.
Right.
And my workouts are a lot shorter now. I work out maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm in and out before people even start their bench press.
Right.
Because, they're talking for 15 minutes.
Well, of course, right.
Yeah. So
I think we're gonna get to this like and how that works and the reasons why those things have worked for you because I was wondering to myself is is it not laziness? Like the fact that you were using this game to skip the gym. I think you mentioned that you felt like it was laziness, but I wonder if it was your brain's way of saying that your workouts were so freaking miserable that it was helping you avoid it.
It could be that, or it could just be a cop out. It's
I
like,
don't
I need a
know.
reason to not go. And I mean, everybody's different, and I don't, looking back on it now, it seems silly. It's like, why did I just do that? It doesn't make sense. And it could be, yeah, you know, if you can ask my wife, my workouts were like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And it was unnecessary.
Right. Totally unnecessary.
Unnecessary. You know, I have better results, and I'm home by, 5 o'clock, 5:30, and I can actually spend time with my family instead of, hey, I'm home at 7:30.
Right.
Oh, our son's asleep. Oh, I got to shower and go to bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, one of the more sciencey secrets to habit formation is the fact that human behavior and habit formation is based on two things: the avoidance of pain and the seeking out of pleasure. So I talk a lot about our evolutionary biology and human history because I think it lends a lot of insight into why we do the things we do and how habits form.
Right, yeah.
And through our entire 6 billion year evolution to the humans that we are now, nature selected for those humans who sought pleasure and avoided pain. And the main pleasure drivers were food and sex.
Oh, nice.
So the main avoidances being not wanting to starve to death and not wanting to be eaten. So on the starve to death front, your body is actually programmed to work or to move less and eat more. Like that's how we're biologically programmed.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anything that you do that is so miserable that your brain will actually help you avoid it. And I use the example of the guy who eats McDonald's 2 times a day every day and hasn't worked out in 25 years. One day he wakes up, and even though it didn't happen overnight, he's like, oh my God, I gained 50 pounds overnight, right? And he goes to the doctor, and his doc says he's close to having his first heart attack. And so it freaks him out, and he decides that he's going to get healthy really fast, and he's going to change his whole life. And he vows to eat kale smoothies and go to CrossFit 5 times a week. And you were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Don't do this like where you're all in and then you're like, I'm never doing that again, because they can find some initial motivation, but then you do too much, and the experience is so god-awful miserable that your brain actually helps you avoid healthy eating and exercise. Because again, our brains are programmed to seek out pleasure and not pain. So your brain, I think, like with the stoplight thing.
Yeah. No,
I think your brain was helping you avoid an awful experience.
Yeah, leg days were brutal. I couldn't walk for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? I do remember you talking, like when we would go to class, about how sore you would be.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that was right before I had started to get more into the triathlon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally made it up to doing Olympic distance triathlons. And I was working out for up to 4 hours a day. And at this point, because I had to stop doing it for health reasons because I was killing myself. Now to think about doing that again, I'm like, no stinking way.
Yeah.
I don't even I have a bike over there in the corner. I don't even like to look at that thing because I spent so much time on that thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
my
Hours,
brain has created this awful association with long distance cardio.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to spend like 4 hours on a bike.
No, it's horrible. So again, I think that's a really important point to make, that if the program, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, if you try and make those changes so fast and it's freaking miserable, you are not going to be able to maintain it.
Too extreme.
Right.
Yeah, one extreme. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy. Alrighty. So, talk about all that fun stuff. How do we train our brain? That's the biggest thing.
Right. And I think you have to understand what actually happens in the brain
Sure, yeah.
Because a habit implies an activity that you do on autopilot. So, and it requires, like, at first, I think it requires thought and a little bit of motivation to start, especially if there's a specific thing that you as the conscious being wants to do. But in the end, a true habit doesn't require any mental energy. So it's like brushing your teeth. Nobody actually has to like think about and like, oh, I got to get the motivation to brush my teeth. It's just something you do. Just like in the morning, when you grab your keys and you leave your house for work, and you lock your doors. You don't have to think about it. You just do it.
Yeah, and sometimes even with the doors locked, you're like, did I lock the doors?
Right.
Because usually you think about it and you don't even remember doing it.
Exactly. And that was exactly one of the points that were made I was reading an article about this earlier to prepare for this, actually. And they were saying, when you do a true habit is something you could do on such autopilot that you actually can forget whether or not you did it.
Yeah.
So a true habit has the following characteristics. It occurs regularly, but not necessarily every day. I think that's a myth that a habit has to happen every day, or the activity has to happen every day. It has to be cued by a situation or something in your environment. And it occurs without thought, so it's automatic. So that, I think that's the basic, like, that's would be like the definition of if you wanted to define, like, is this a habit or not a habit?
Right, yeah.
So is it happening on autopilot for me? Changing your behavior actually means changing your brain.
Yeah.
And they call this whole idea, and I'm probably going to butcher this explanation because I'm not a neuroscientist, but they call it neuroplasticity. And for a long time, they didn't think adults had the ability, like their brains were plastic instead of
pliable.
Pliable, right?
Yeah.
They believed our brains were not pliable after a certain age, but now they've found that they were wrong. The adult brain is pliable.
So you can teach an old dog new tricks.
You can.
That's good to know.
So making or breaking a habit involves these neuroplastic changes in your brain, and a person desires something because their plastic brain has become sensitized to a substance and experiences and craves that whatever it is. Right, yeah. And so when the urge is satisfied, a feel-good hormone actually gets released by your brain. And so this is what I tell people is so important. If you don't get that little hit of dopamine from starting to do some sort of habit, or your whatever it is, if you don't get a hit of dopamine in your brain, you will not keep doing it. It will not form as a habit. So I think it's really important to remember that when you decide after not having exercised for 20 years that you're going to do CrossFit 5 days a week.
No way.
Like, right.
There's no way.
It's not going to happen.
No, yeah. Those, if you ever, and especially because they go from sitting on the couch, eating pizza, to watching the CrossFit games, and they're like, oh, all you do is CrossFit, and you look like that, and you can do all this crazy stuff, and that's not a
CrossFit and like beef and kale.
Yeah,
you know.
That's basically
who wants to live that way?
Kale's good when it's cooked right, but it tastes like garbage if it's not. So yeah, definitely. Rewiring your brain. It's all neurological pathways,
right? And
it just takes it's very hard to break those things, and it comes down to just changing your habits and changing your environment, all that stuff. So. We're going to kind of break things down, create better habits, kind of what's behind those things. I know one thing is motivation, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Motivation is key to just about everything. That's more of the, ignition to get it started, not necessarily going to carry you throughout. It can to an extent, but it's not there to be leaned on as a crutch. I did like this quote I pulled off the internet. It says, enthusiasm is common and commitment is rare.
That's true.
So motivation. Who is driven by motivation? Are you driven by motivation?
It depends on what it is.
Right. It depends on what it is. So many people start on motivation. I'll just kind of give you what I did. I did, 9 weeks ago, started a podcast or listened to a podcast, I should say. If I kind of covered it in the last one, My motivation just came from podcasts because, like you said, you listen to those when you're kind of, in that slump, and that's where it came from. Motivation started in the podcast. I set some goals. I go back to those, not as much as I used to. Maybe every once in a while, just to kind of get my mind back into that position to where I should be.
Right.
But we definitely know that motivation is fleeting.
It is.
Yeah, and it can be here one day, gone the next, and it's just a matter of finding that balance, I guess, as to.
And sometimes you just have to take action really quickly when you have the inkling to do something. So I know you talked about, starting this podcast, and it's a huge leap when you think about actually doing it. But what did you do? You thought about it, and then you texted me. And so that just started the ball rolling.
Yeah, if Kelly wasn't going to do it, I wasn't going to do it. I
am the key.
Yes, I needed some accountability because I was like, let's text Kelly. If she wants to do it, awesome. If not, that's okay.
So again, there's lots of different forms of motivation for different people, and it's going to be different for everybody. I wish that I could tell you, what really motivates me to exercise every day. I mean, at this point, I think it is a habit because I have a set time of day.
Right.
I think, that I when I do that. But sometimes like you find out that you maybe are getting close to being a type 2 diabetic, and that's motivation. Or thinking about, especially after having kids, like setting a good example.
Or just being there to play ball with them.
Right.
Or do something. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's all different kinds of motivation, but I definitely agree. You have to figure out, like, if there's something that you want, are you motivated, and how motivated are you to get it? And, just going back to the weight loss thing, nobody can do it for you. And so if you have the inkling that what you want is to lose weight or to get healthy, when you wake up in the morning, you actually have to say, I'm doing this. I'm getting up. I'm going on a walk, or whatever that may be.
Yeah. Funny that you bring that up with the getting up in the morning. I can't remember who I heard it from. They said you have about 5 seconds to make that decision.
There's a TED Talk. Oh my gosh. And you know what? We're going to have to find it and link to it because I've listened to that too. And it's amazing. She talks about the 5-second rule, that if you have a thought and you don't act on that thought within 5 seconds, you'll talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. It's crazy. 5 seconds is
right.
Really...
Right. So you wake up in the morning and you're like, I should get up and go exercise. Get the F up.
Yeah, get out of bed. I mean, it really just comes
because
down
if
to
you
that,
wait 5 seconds, you will talk yourself out of it and talk yourself into the snooze button. So yeah, motivation is a tough one. You have to figure out what that is for you.
And I have used that. Currently. Sometimes it takes me more than 5 seconds to get out of bed, but I'm like up. I'm like, I know I need to get up.
Right.
I'm getting up. Just give me like 2 seconds.
Right.
Okay. It might be like a minute or two, but I'm usually out of bed. Yeah, I feel bad when I don't get up.
Exactly.
I'm almost mad at myself. Like, I slept in an hour. I lost an hour because I didn't want to get up at 4:30.
So I think that's a really important point to make, that you are connecting a bad feeling with doing the negative behavior. Like making that connection between, I know if I don't get up right now, I'm going to feel really crappy later. Or if you are, you're full after dinner, but you decide you want to go get seconds, try and connect that activity with the fact that you're going to feel like shit later on.
Now you're going to be bloated.
Right.
Bloated,
that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
So I hate being over full. I always thought I loved being really full, and I found out, I'm like, no, I hate that feeling. And so that has really actually helped me to eat less over time, because I can think to myself, I don't want to feel that way. Or, for getting up in the morning, or if it's something with your business, if you don't want to feel, I don't know, like you're not getting things done.
Yeah.
And, you have a terrible feeling if you don't. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I know Joe Rogan kind of pointed this out. He makes a list every day or every week, and if he doesn't complete everything on that list, he says he feels like crap. for the day or for the week. He's like,
Right.
I feel like crap. I didn't get what I was told myself I was going to get done. So he set those goals. He didn't meet those goals. And he's like, I should have done it.
Right. Hey, writing it down is another good point for motivation.
Write it down,
When you know, like you can think it and then like, I don't know about you, but I mean, if I have a thought about something, I'll forget about it 5 seconds later. But when I write it down, it becomes a lot more real.
Yeah. I actually have my wife text me like, hey, can you text me this? Cause I'll forget in like 2 minutes.
Right.
I don't remember what I was going to say, but it's bad. So so motivation, next thing is, taking like one step at a time.
Yes.
It's incremental. It's not going to be all at one time. Everybody thinks they're going to lose weight or, we'll just use that because that's kind of the common thing. It's easiest to kind of grasp to. You're going to go from, 40 pounds overweight to your ideal weight within a month or within 2 weeks. Obviously, 2 weeks is kind of crazy unless apparently you have the 2 days, you lose 11 pounds.
2 days, you can lose 11 pounds.
I hope you guys have 72 hours in 2 days.
You can't eat anything either.
Yeah, you can't eat anything. That's great, but, making a personal goal, and having the building blocks to reach that 100% or 50% or whatever that percentage is, it's just the stepping stones to get to that point. Yeah.
You need to start small and you also need to give it time. So I've met so many people who they're like, they get down when I say do 10 minutes of walking. And if you struggle with that, break it up into 2 5-minute sessions for your day. And they're like, oh, well, that's not going to do anything. And I'm like, but it's better than 0 minutes of walking. So if you're doing nothing, if you're hardly moving all day, or if you're not, another good one is I've told people that, they should add a salad, like some spinach or something to their lunch meal. And they're like, well, that's not really enough, or they skip a day. And I'm like, but look at the long term. So if you add 1 serving of vegetables or 1 green leafy salad to your day, that's it, over the next month, you've eaten 30 salads.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, I mean, again, people are not really looking at the big picture. And so with movement, it's the same thing. Commit to walking for 5 minutes if that's all you can do, Walk for 5 minutes 3 times a day or something like that. It's progress.
Yeah.
And people get mired in this indecision because they feel like the little stuff doesn't count, when in fact it's the little things that count the most if they're done consistently.
Yeah, and that's consistency is the biggest key. Yeah.
Exactly. And then giving it time, because I don't think I looked up whether or not there was a standard time for habit formation. And like you always hear like 21 days or something like that, which apparently from what I've read is a load of crap. So sorry, 21-day fix. It doesn't happen that way. But the amount of time for habit formation, I think, is really dependent on the habit you're trying to change.
Okay.
Obviously, if it's like a big habit, if it's something small and fairly painless, it's probably going to happen quickly. But if it's something major, like you're adding exercise to your life after 30 years of being sedentary, it's probably going to take you a while to make that a habit. So, I mean, you're talking maybe a year of trying to be consistent, maybe falling off the wagon a little bit, getting back on, and just keep trying. So, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we talk about a couple things. Accountability is another huge one. Who are you accountable to, right? Accountability for me. I set my week up, right? Monday I have to do this, Tuesday this, yada yada yada. Every day I try to do an Instagram post. That's kind of my own personal accountability because I know that I need to get these things done.
Right.
And I know for other people it could be, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other. It doesn't really matter, but you need to have someone to kind of keep those checks and balances, especially, when you're like, I'm going to do the dishes every day this week, honey. And guess what? You didn't do the dishes today. What's she gonna do? You're gonna sleep on the couch.
Oh, come on! Is it that easy for you to sleep on the couch at home?
Yeah, I do the dishes. Trust me, I do the dishes. We get those things done. But yeah, so it's just keeping that accountable, person to help you in your corner. And it comes in just a variety of people and stuff like that. So do you have anybody that you helps you keep accountable, on anything you're
No,
doing?
I'm like a loner type.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be helpful because that would force me to step outside of my comfort zone to have somebody who is actually an accountability partner. And I shouldn't say this because I actually am part of a business accountability group. And so what we do is we're always talking about what our plans are for the month and the week. And then we have to come back and tell everybody, did we reach our goals?
Right. Yeah.
So I do have some accountability in that way, but honestly, with the fitness stuff, and this is something that frustrates me because I hate that word accountability.
Yeah,
I do think that there are ways to help yourself be accountable. Like I think I heard you say that you post to Instagram in the morning with what do you take a
just
picture
a picture
of?
of my watch.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's
So
it.
that you're getting up, you're doing your thing. I think that's great. But what I hear too often, and this is, from clients or people who call me and they say, I want you to help keep me accountable. And accountability is really, in that perspective, is BS.
They don't want it.
Exactly.
They don't want it.
You know what? Because here's what happens. So I'll be like, well, what do you mean by accountability? Well, I want you to text me and ask me if I'm working out every day and if I ate a salad today or whatever it is.
So basically, you remember that commercial they had with the guy with the football helmet on, and then he goes to pick up a taco, and the guy's just, don't eat that. That's exactly what they want you to do.
Well, I tell people, unless you hire me to live with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so I can force you out of bed and onto the treadmill and then slap the bad food out of your hand, which is going to cost you a lot of money for me to live with you, generally what happens is that they will ask me like, well, can you check in with me every day or can you check in with me every few days? And I'm like, you know what? I will do that. But here's what happens. They either begin ignoring my texts or they lie to me.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to, once something is painful enough and you start to lose motivation because it happens to everybody, then you'll lie to yourself.
Yeah.
So nobody else can hold you accountable. You have to find your motivation in those goals. And again, sometimes you just got to keep going.
Yeah. And for instance, I had one client that I was working with for free. I was just kind of helping him with his diet and stuff. All I asked him to do, send me your weight once a week. That is it. That's all I need to know. Oh, it's going down, it's going up, whatever. He couldn't even do that. He couldn't do that.
It's going down.
Whatever. He would, but I would literally have to text him 5 or 6 times. All I need is you to step on the scale, take a picture. 3 seconds of work. He couldn't do it.
Oh man, you are a tough trainer.
I was doing it for free.
Oh!
I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart.
My clients come here and they know that I don't weigh anybody anymore. Like when they come to me for the initial consultation, I'm like, by the way, I will not weigh you because we all know that weight is a horrible measure of progress, but when it's the measure of progress you've chosen and you can't get somebody to comply.
Yeah, that's crazy. Alrighty, so really, we're talking about accountability, motivation. What was the other thing we talked about? Getting steps, one thing at a time, and it really comes down to how bad do you want to change.
Yeah.
And that could be obviously in conjunction with the motivation part, but how bad do you really want it? I have a girl at work that talks to me about exercise and all that stuff, and all I do is say, how bad do you really want it? You're sick today. Okay, I was sick too. I went to the gym. I still did my stuff. I obviously didn't do crazy weights or anything.
Right.
I took my time. But how bad do you really want it? If you're sick, really bad, if obviously
stay out of the gym if you have the flu,
stay home.
please.
I just had like a cough and sore throat. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'll go to the gym.
Don't be one of those people.
No, yeah, right. Be smart about it. But it really comes down to how bad do you really want it? Do you really want to, eat that salad one day a week, work out for walk 10 minutes twice a day. You know, really it's just how is that a driving factor? How bad do you really want that change to actually take place in your life?
Right. Exactly. And how far are you willing to go? So when we talk about body goals, you know, if you want to be the super ripped, super lean, you want to be a fitness model, there is a shitload of work that goes into that. And until you're really in the trenches, you don't realize how difficult and how hard those people work to look like that. Because I tried to get there at one point and I just couldn't do it because I was starting to binge on and off at that point, and so I actually caused an eating disorder, but I realized it was because it wasn't congruent really with how I wanted to live my life and be happy.
Right.
I couldn't make the super strict lifestyle of fitness model come together with the lifestyle that I enjoy living. So like, for example, I enjoy having a glass of wine with dinner and I enjoy having a little bit of ice cream are those things going to like ruin my health? No. I can maintain a normal weight. I can be healthy, and I can be happy having those things in my life. And otherwise, I'm exercising, I'm eating healthy foods, but to reach that, you know, to do the super strict thing, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of those people, if you really look at them, you know, they can't eat anything.
Right.
Unless it's on their diet.
They can't go anywhere.
Unless you have that mindset of like, you know, and those fitness models are usually, you know, Olympians and, you know,
right.
If you talk about, you know, Arnold classics and all that kind of stuff, that's their goal and that's what they want to do.
Right.
But I mean, I could not imagine doing that. I feel like I would be miserable.
Exactly.
Like, oh, hey guys, we're going out. Oh no, I got to go to the gym.
I felt miserable at the time where I was trying to achieve that unrealistic. And again, like it caused me to start binging on the weekends because I felt so awfully deprived.
Yeah.
That it just turned into this cycle of, you know, during the week I would hardly eat anything and I would work out like crazy. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was just eating everything in sight. And it was just because I never allowed myself to have any pleasure in life when I was trying to be on the crazy. It takes a very specific mindset, like you said, for that.
Yeah.
So you have to like measure, you have to look at your goals and say, how bad do I want to change? And what exactly is it going to take to get me to this goal? Using health and fitness, if all you want is to be healthy and maintain a normal weight and not die of a heart attack at 42, it's really not as complicated to be that way as people make it out to be.
3 days a week. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not much.
Right. You need to walk, so you need to move more. You need to eat a semi-healthy diet, so, you know, like add in a few more vegetables and leafy greens here and there, maybe a fruit, I don't know. And really, that's going to get you to that place without changing like everything about your life.
Right, yeah.
You know, you'll be happy, you'll be healthy, you'll maintain a normal weight. Are you going to be a fitness model? No.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, when I diet, usually I do, 6 days, and then that 7th day I'll go crazy some days.
Right.
And then you might get to a point where that you don't need to go crazy that 7th day. You might just be like, okay, I want a bowl of ice cream.
Right.
And that's fine. But yeah, it really just comes down to moderation, stuff like that. But
I think, yeah, and like I said, but you have to like really base it on your goals.
Right,
and
exactly.
So if your goal is fitness model, then like, yeah, no, there's no ice cream or, any of that stuff.
And if that's your goal, that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you can do that, oh my God, more power to you.
Oh yeah. I'll be jealous.
Exactly. You are a special kind of human. But for the majority of people, just figuring out what it is that they want and then finding those small steps that they can take to get there is going to be what gets them there.
Right. And we're going to be talking about fitness and stuff because that's kind of the thing we kind of go back to.
Right.
It's kind of, the leveling point to where everybody knows, okay, fitness stuff. It's kind of common denominator, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's all you want to change. It could be, starting a business. How bad do you want that business? How bad do you want, to, make your relationships that much better? So it really just comes down to what those goals are and obviously applying it, strategically to each goal that is. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Cool. So, I mean, what else do you got? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
I think we nailed this one.
So, yeah, just to recap, what do we got? We have, I'm going to go through my notes. We have motivation. Find out what motivates you, kind of figuring out what that is. Podcasts, like Kelly said, I've said. Step at a time, 1% at a time to get that 100.
So important.
Slow and steady wins the race. Accountability. Are you accountable? You're accountable to yourself more than somebody else, like she said, and I've said. Getting that client to tell you how much they weigh or if they've ate a salad that day, they can lie. They can get a photo off Instagram.
Absolutely.
Or Facebook, Oh yeah, I ate this kale salad with these cucumbers. Yep. And how bad do you really want to change? So take those as it may, apply them to your life, and we'll see you next time.
Yay!
All right, later, guys.
Bye.
This is the Initiative Project podcast, and we will see you next time. If you like what you hear, please comment, subscribe, push that like and notification button on YouTube. That would be great. See you next time, guys.